Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the League of Europe Formula One YouTube channel for round 3 of the Formula 2 Championship. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Carmentalist. I'll be taking you through proceedings as always. And as always, joining me in the Formula 2 commentary booth today is QVR Daka. How you doing, mate?
Thank you very much, Aidan. Yes, here we are today for the third round of the LOE Formula 2 Championship. Really excited for this next round, of course, at the Zandvoort circuit in the Netherlands. So we'll see how that will shape up. Of course, yet again, just like last week, it's at a new track on the F1 calendar, at least in recent times. And, of course, a new challenge for the drivers as well. So, yet again, we're going to see who can adapt, who can keep it clean, and who will come out tonight, on top tonight ahead of the F2 race. We'll get underway shortly.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing to look out for at this track, obviously, like you say, it is a new track on the calendar. We're at Vietnam last week, and it's fair to say that, especially the sprint race last time out in Vietnam, was a little bit crazy. There was a lot of crazy racing going on, and obviously with a relatively new track for the drivers, with different set of cars to Formula One. Obviously, Formula 2 cars are completely different. I imagine that this track's going to be quite a bit of a challenge.
Yes, indeed, of course, very technical. And what one of the things that I actually love about this track, and it's quite unique to modern F1, is that there's very little room for error. If you're running off track, you're going through the grass. You know, that it's not like a lot of the more recent tracks that have been made up where you're going to have runoff. So it's going to be, the margin for error is going to be so thin, and of course overtaking probably isn't going to be the easiest as well. So it's a bit of a unique challenge for the drivers, and again, just like Vietnam, it's going to be a real test of consistency and keeping your nose clean.
Absolutely, yeah. We've just got ready then. We're loading into the qualifying session for one shot quali. We are just about ready to go for the qualifying session today. Before we do, just going to run you through the standings for the season so far. After 2 rounds, Toxic still leads the championship after a pretty chaotic sprint race for him in the end. He was involved in an incident where XL Lang broke so late into the hairpin that he actually missed the corner and took Toxic with him. Toxic finished 8th in the sprint race, but still leads the championship coming into round 3. Larkin is in second, but very, very close behind. There is only a 4-point gap between the two of them. Then it's a bit of a gap back to the 2 Trident cars. It's another 12 points back to Verstappen, and Campbell's in 4th ahead of QVR Chill in 5th in the second Prema. XL Ling, after a much better performance last time out, is in 6th in the championship ahead of Londa Tim. Philippe is in 8th, Alt Maverick is in 9th, and Kyle T rounds off the top 10 in terms of the point scorers. But we were talking a little bit before we get going today that if it's based on just pure results so far this season, and there were no points for pole and for pole and fastest lap, Larkin would have the lead of the championship at the moment. So it goes to show that even qualifying is incredibly important.
Yes, indeed, getting on that pole position, which sometimes could be such a huge fight. We've probably got about 6 or 7 drivers on the grid that are capable of getting pole on any given day, and of course, getting those 4 points that could come down to the slimmest of margins, it is absolutely vital in terms of the championship. And of course, you mentioned Larkin last week had significantly better results across the 2 races than Toxic did, but of course Toxic with fastest lap in both races and also getting pole position. That's 8 extra points, which actually was enough to keep him in the championship lead. So yeah, that's going to be huge across the season. See who picks up those bonus points.
Absolutely, yeah. We're just into the qualifying lap now, coming to the end of the first sector. Danny Boy we're on board with for the qualifying lap. Comes to the end of the first sector. It's a 34-7 at the end of the top 5 at the moment. So the MP doing a good job. We haven't seen Danny qualifying so far this season. He's pretty late, has come in and only taken part in the sprint race, but both sprint races he's shown pretty decent pace, and it's showing qualifying still running at the top end of the field. It's currently Larkin and Toxic once again fighting it out for pole position by the looks of things. Larkin slightly with the advantage coming into the third sector. Danny Boy still running in 4th, a 56-1 at the end of the second sector, looking like a very, very neat lap. It looks like Philippe's invalidated his time, and he's currently down in 20th place. Fortunate for him, on a track that's hard to overtake, we have a full lobby come through the final spectacle this is, as we now do the long run down to the start finish line at pole position. It does look like Larkin's going to take it. Larkin takes pole position ahead of Toxic. Danny Boy crossed the line in 6th place in the end with a 20.5. But yeah, Larkin in the BWT Arden takes his first pole position of the season, a 19.6. He goes on to pole ahead of Toxic, 0.2 of a second clear of his championship rival. That is a major confidence boost for Larkin.
Indeed it is, and of course just being able to beat the likes of Toxic on outright pace is something that he's not really done so far this season. So I think that's going to be a huge boost for him. Of course, 2 long races ahead of us, but Larkin pole position. We've seen how confident and just consistent he's been out on track this season, and that lead could be very difficult to overturn.
Absolutely, yeah. We're running through the full grid then. It's Larkin on pole ahead of Toxic and Chill, the 2 Pro cars, second and third. Once again, qualifying for Chill. Campbell in fourth in the Trident ahead of JD Nolan on his first appearance of the season in the Dams in fifth. Danny Boy in sixth ahead of Killer Blue. Verstappen only 8th, Ton 9th. Caesar rounds off the top 10. Matrix in the 11th ahead of Total Peace. Excelling is only 13th. Gary is only 14th on the grid ahead of Maverick in 15th. Tim and Alex 16th and 17th. Their worst qualifying of the season ahead of Jordan JT, Ibo and Philippe. Philippe obviously spun somewhere on his lap. It wasn't invalidated, but he starts in 20th place. And I'm thinking Philippe is probably really annoyed at the fact that today we have obviously had lower numbers last week, but we have a full lobby at a track that's so difficult to overtake at.
Yes, indeed, qualifying more important than ever here at Zandvoort, and the drivers that weren't able to get the laps that they wanted are going to have a long order ahead of us, not just in this feature race, but if they can't get in that top 8, then it will be the sprint race as well, will be a very long way ahead for those guys. So yeah, we're looking forward to this one. Different dynamic ahead of this race then, with the qualifying so important. I expect a furious battle amongst Larkin and the likes of those Prema cars as well, battling towards turn 1 in particular. We'll see how they all shape up.
Absolutely, yeah. Tyre strategies today, soft and medium tyres are available for this race, so look out for who's going to start on which tyre. Only the 1-step tyre difference this time round. It was 2-step, I believe, in Vietnam last week, so there was a big pace difference in the 2 tyres. But this time round, there's a bit of a smaller gap, and it's a short track, so not a lot of pace difference between the tyres. It does look like both the drivers on the front row are going to be starting on the softer of the 2 compounds, which is something we haven't really seen so far this season. Most people usually go for the alternate strategy, and it's been a rarity really for people to start on the softs. But looking at the grid today, it's the complete opposite, because Chill and Campbell 3rd and 4th starting on the mediums, Ton in 9th starting on the mediums, Tim in 16th is the next person on the medium tyres, and Philippe in last place and 20th is going to be starting on the mediums. Only 5 drivers strategy.
Yes, indeed. That is definitely a fascinating difference compared to what we've seen so far in the season. I think probably most intriguing at all is that second row, because 2 out of the 5 in the whole grid starting on that second row, and that could really free up Larkin and Toxic to have a bit of free rein to try and get the gap out, whilst Chill and Campbell are most likely going to be on the defensive early on in the race. But we'll see, of course, if they're able to hang up near the front and take use the lack of overtaking opportunities to their advantage and be able to charge forward with that. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if those guys can stay up the front, because we saw at Vietnam in particular, those harder compounded tyres really do struggle in the opening few laps. So we'll see if they're able to hang on in there. Otherwise, I think that Larkin and Toxic yet again could be a formidable force up the front here.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think look out for Chill today as Chill goes half sideways coming into the final sector, nearly spins the car. Chill probably today going to be looking up for a relatively poor showing in Vietnam. He had a great qualifying. His won that pace at Vietnam was very good, but his races, neither race went to plan for him in the end, did it? He had the pace at the start of the stint, but he just could not keep the tyres in the right window, and he really struggled to hold the pace of the cars in front, and he dropped like a stone in both races. So let's see maybe if he wants to try and bounce back from a poor Vietnam and maybe have a much better time this time round.
Indeed, but of course we're going to have to look up towards the front of the grid. It is Larkin, it is Toxic front row. For once, Larkin gets the better of his rival in qualifying. We'll see if that pays to his advantage in the race as well. 19 laps of Zandvoort ahead of us, and a very intriguing feature race as well. As the back of the grid lines up, I'll leave it to you to take us to the start. Let's get the feature race underway.
Here we go then for the feature race. It's Larkin in one Arden at the front, the other Arden in 20th place. They take both ends of the field. Here we go then for the start of the feature race. Who's going to get the best start? Here come the lights ahead of the drivers. It's a short run into turn 1. Who gets the best start? 5 lights go out very quickly, and Larkin is away, and Larkin looks like he's got a really good start. Toxic doesn't get off the line too well.
Oh!
Massive oversteer there from Larkin in the 3rd gear range, and he's lost places. So it's Toxic that ends up leading going into turn 1 after a relatively poor start. We've got Campbell, I believe, up into 2nd on the medium tyres. Larkin just hold on to 3rd place, but he's dropped of Campbell already wide in the background. I think that's had a good start, but has already lost another place back to Chill. So Chill's back up another place after a relatively poor start for him. Danny Boy running in the top 5 at the moment as well. And then it's Verstappen. JD Nolan's dropped a few places. Caesar's up a couple places as well. We've got 2 wide in the background. That's Matrix trying to look up the inside a ton. I think he's actually gone right down the inside. He has. Matrix, I think, made the move stick coming down the inside. Coming now to the end of the first sector, just as the timing pause starts to fix itself again. It's Toxic in the lead, ahead of Campbell on the medium tyres. Great start for him once again on those mediums. We saw that at Vietnam last time out, but Larking swarming all over the back of him, trying to make up for a poor start. Chill in 4th ahead of Killaboo 5th. Danny Boy stays in 6th. Verstappen's up to 7th, but crawling all over the back of the MP Motorsport car. Is going to have a look maybe down into the chicane at the bottom of the hill. He looks down the inside, but he's not late enough on the brakes. Danny Boy swoops down the outside. Time JD Nolan in the Dams car in 8th, ahead of Caesar in 9th, but Philippe and Jordan side by side in the background. That's Jordan trying to get it moved on Philippe, and I think he's made it stick, so he's back up into 18th place. He's off the top 10. Tons fallen to 11th. Tim's not had the best start in the other university as well. What a disastrous start for Larkin. Larkin's now on the back of Campbell, looking to the inside for turn 1. Is he going to have the run down the inside? He's got good straight line speed in that car, and he's down the inside late on the brakes, gets the car stopped, and it retakes that 2nd place. But what a shame. Larkin had a brilliant first phase of the start, and then as soon as he got into 3rd gear, he lost all traction and lost loads of places.
Indeed, he definitely recovers up to 2nd. Toxic, though, is taking full advantage of that. A considerable lead already up at the front of this Dutch Grand Prix. We'll see if he can continue to break away from the field behind. Or further down the field, we've got battles galore. This is Exo Lang and Tanawadak. They battle away further back. You've got Maverick just about able to fend off Gary. These guys a little bit further down the field, but of course it can all change very, very quickly, and they can have a run up towards the front. Now they're into this very technical and high downforce section of the track. Now slow it down, turn 9. You can just see how you got to really struggle for traction out there, and looking for battles there. Danny Boy get a little bit of a poor run off 10, and now Verstappen looks towards his inside for the 2nd time running into the chicane. This time he's committed, and there's a little bit of contact between them. Danny Boy holds it around the outside, parks it on the apex, and has just been able to stay ahead, but he is coming under considerable pressure, heavy pressure from the Dutchman behind him, and he'll be looking to try and get up to his teammate up ahead. Verstappen hounding Danny Boy onto the straight at the end of the lap 2. We'll see if Danny Boy stays ahead. This time Verstappen has a really good run at him there. He's going to look towards an inside yet again. This time it's turn 1 that he's headed towards. Danny Boy again very, very late on the brakes, where Verstappen still right up alongside him. The exit of turn now, little bit of wheel bagging between them, and it's eventually Verstappen has to back out. Danny Boy hangs it round the outside into turn 4, holds the inside line, and just been able to stay ahead. Verstappen applying relentless pressure, but Danny Boy at the moment the equal to it, and just holding that 6th place.
Just holding the 6th place at the time being. Massive queue forming behind Campbell. Campbell is really struggling on these medium tyres after a good start. He's got Chill on the other set of medium tyres swarming all over the back of him. Campbell has fallen to 1.5 seconds behind Larkin already. Toxic continues to extend his lead up front. JD Nolan, meanwhile, from place on the grid, has fallen to 10th. He's had an atrocious first few laps of this race. He's fallen right down to the bottom end of the top 10, and he's got Matrix on the back of him now. Excel Link is kind of becoming a little bit detached from the cars in front. Pieces up to 9th. Caesar's on the move as well in Dam's car. He's catching this battle between Danny Boy and Verstappen. Chill, is he down the inside? He is all over the curb on the inside of the corner, but can't get the move stuck, and he stays behind for the time being. But the more time they battle, this is allowing Killer to catch back up again, and Killer swarming all over the back of them. And we've got a yellow flag. We've got a full safety car, I think. Jordan's gone into the wall down the straight. I don't know if he's come into contact with someone. He might have come into contact with Excelling, maybe. Yeah, Excelling's missing a lot of front wing. They weren't near each other on track, so I'm wondering whether Excelling has spun on his own and has been hit by Jordan JT. But that's brought out a full safety car, and we're only on lap 4 of this race. All of the soft runners, apart from Matrix, are coming in. They have just met the pit stop window. Obviously, the window is the end of lap 3, so they are able to now come in. But this is going to be a tall order to get those medium tyres 15 laps without them dying at the end of the race.
Well, of course, we're very unfamiliar with the tyre degradation at this track, and we're just going to see the results of that. But if they're able to keep it on the island, it could be something of a masterstroke for those soft starters. Now on those mediums, so they can stretch it. They have such an advantage over everyone that didn't come in. So we'll see. Maybe the likes of Campbell and Chill have been a bit hung out to dry here. If they're not able to make a lot of pace in these next few laps on older tyres than most of the field, if they can't pull away early on, then they could really be at the mercy of fighting for the traffic at the end of the race. I reckon that Campbell and Chill, if they're not extremely pacey in these next few laps, could really fall victim to that, and they could be falling down the field if the mediums hold up from everyone from 8 downwards.
Absolutely, got to get those medium tyres to the end, but like you say, they've got such a track advantage at this point. They're so much closer to the field in front of them than they would have been if they pitted under the green flags. Meanwhile, Killer Blue has actually jumped Larkin in the pit stops. Larkin must have been held up massively, because Larkin was, I would say, at least 4 seconds ahead of him on the road, and Killer Blue's managed to come out in a net P2 in that pit stop phase. So that's worked out brilliantly for the ART, man. Larkin down to 3rd in this queue. Danny Boy ahead of Verstappen still, so Verstappen still couldn't get past in the pit lane. Pease and Gary. One person that's massively lost out once again is JD Nolan. He's down to 17th. It's behind Maverick, only just in front of Excelling, who obviously had to replace his front wing. JD Nolan, after a good qualifying P5, this race has absolutely fallen apart for him so far.
Yes, indeed. And he was someone that really impressed me, actually, in qualifying with that 5th place. But of course, since then, his race has gone from really good to bad to worse. And at the moment, he has got an awful long way ahead of him if he wants to get anywhere near not only his qualifying position, but also trying to get precedence with that reverse grid if he's not able to make it back there. Of course, he is going to be starting well down the field. So there's a lot of work ahead of him. But if with that 5th place in qualifying, you've got to imagine that he has the pace to work his way back through. But at a track so narrow, so technical, where overtaking is so difficult, he's got a really big task ahead of him if he wants to try and get into that all-important top 8.
Absolutely, and we've only had 3 laps of green flag racing, but we've already seen how difficult it is to overtake. Verstappen's tried on multiple occasions to get past Danny Boy, but Danny Boy is easily able to just hold the car around the outside of the corner, because a lot of the corners here are cambered, a lot of them are banked to the inside, which means that running the outside line here isn't really that much of a disadvantage. You're able to carry a lot more momentum around the outside of the corner, and it's very easy to defend here, which is why Danny Boy is still... And that's why Verstappen's probably ruined 3rd in the championship. He's losing even more ground to Larkin and Toxic. Larkin hasn't had the smoothest race so far, but even with that, he's still behind him at the moment, and Verstappen's good that he only qualified...
I think I'm having some audio issues with you, but I think I just about got it. So, yeah, of course, Verstappen needs to work on that consistency. I think he's pretty competitive with the likes of Larkin and Toxic on pure pace. He just needs to put it together on a more consistent basis if he really wants to mount a championship challenge. At the moment, Toxic and Larkin have outperformed him considerably over these first 2 races, but it can all change. It's very early doors in the season. I suspect both the Trident cars do have more to give. It's just that it's been such a rocky start to the season for both of them. There's a lot of work to be done, I think, and just in terms of their own driving, making sure they're cutting out the mistakes. Campbell maybe has made a wrong strategy call. Of course, we'll see if it pays to his advantage later on in the race, but it's those little errors that start to creep in, where the likes of Toxic, Larkin, who aren't making as many mistakes, or are still racing at such a high level in every single race at the moment. It's going to be so hard for those Trident teammates, that dynamic duo, to really be able to trouble them at that moment.
Absolutely, yeah. Apologies if you heard any audio issues on stream. Hopefully that fixes itself as the race goes on. But yeah, like I say, Campbell and Chill are in a real disadvantage here with the track position they have. They are out in front, so they can pull away once again, but Toxic is only down in 8th place at the moment. He's only got 7 cars in front of him, and we know how aggressive Toxic can be. I wouldn't be surprised to see Toxic work his way through the field before these guys pit, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him get as many cars between him and Killer Blue as possible. But yeah, we already saw at the start of the race that Campbell's seemingly really struggling on these medium tyres, and Chill, again, swarming all over the back of him. So it seems if Chill can get past Campbell, maybe Chill's the best placed man to maybe try and get back through the field later on.
He did certainly look a little bit faster in the early stages of the race, but I'm not sure if Campbell is going to be, to work. Well, he's not going to compromise with him. He might just try and maintain that lead. I think that the 2 big losers from this, though, is that for some reason we've got Philippe going side by side with Tim. But I think the 2 big losers here are Matrix and Alex. I think they were a little bit indecisive in not going into the pit lane as we're getting ready to restart. But I think if those guys had come in, then it would have really, really benefited them. But now it's Campbell, of course, that backs up that field, ready to catapult himself forward at any moment. Takes a wider line through the penultimate corner and shoots off, and it's a good restart from QVR Campbell, and he is off up at the front of this race. Chow trying to pick up that slipstream, but there's no DRS as of yet, and I don't think he's going to quite get to him. Campbell maintains a race lead. Behind there, you got Alex coming under pressure from his Virtuosi teammate. Tim is Toxic. You mentioned his aggression. He dives down the inside of Philippe, who holds it around the outside, does well. Might just stay ahead, but Toxic on the inside and Killer Blue looks to try and follow through. He is side by side. Now with the Arden, as he got Larkin tucked in behind as well. Round the outside, you mentioned that camber, and it's helped out Killer Blue, and it's helped out Larkin. Both of them are able to squeeze past the older tires on Philippe's car. Now Larkin going on the attack again to the inside, and they've got to be careful through turn 7 there not to come together. Killer Blue on the outside, Larkin still hanging with it there. Tim and Toxic as well side by side. It's absolute battles galore out there. Toxic up to 6th, Campbell on the inside looks for 8th there. Oh sorry, Larkin on the other hand, but still Killer Blue holds around the outside and now down the inside at turn 10. May just get it. Traction on the outside may just favour Larkin. They are still wheel to wheel. This is remarkable stuff. Killer Blue nose out ahead into the chicane. Breaks very, very late. Larkin can't quite hold his nose alongside it. Killer Blue superbly holds on to 8th. Toxic already up to 6th. They super start to the restart. There's battles everywhere. I don't know where to look.
I don't know where to look either. That was incredible. Get through so quickly, and he's on the inside of Alex through the bank corner down the inside. Breezes past already before the straight. He's absolutely flying. Here comes Larkin once again. He's trying to get the move done on Killer Blue. He's trying to get it done as quickly as possible, trying to keep up there. 3 wide in the background. That's Verstappen on the inside of Danny Boy, and that's Philippe trying to go around the outside. Larkin still on the inside of the first corner. Has he got the momentum coming up into turn 2? Killer Blue has to back out of the move. Larkin finally gets the move done. Philippe is able to defend from Danny Boy, which has allowed Verstappen to get past the MP Motorsport man. Finally he's managed to make the move stick, but Philippe is defending off these guys really, really well now. After struggling on the first lap of this restart, he's back up to speed once again. Larkin now having a look at Tim, and there was a little bit of wheel banging there. Larkin can't get the move done on Tim, so he's still stuck behind the Univirtuosi man. He's a bit wide. Verstappen's through on him. Total Peas is in the back of this as well as Chill picks up a 3-second time penalty, first one of the race. Peas down the inside of Danny Boy. That'd be a great move if he can pull that one off. He's so late on the brakes. How on earth did he get that one stopped? And it looks like he's made the move stick as Tim has spun on the exit of the corner. I don't know if there was contact. Maybe there's a lot of contact further up front. I think Killer Blue maybe came into contact with Tim, and that's why that's happened. Verstappen's got through. Here comes Peas. Peas has capitalised massively on this. He's gaining places as other people fall back. Peas is through. Oh, Danny Boy. Oh, Danny Boy. Killer Blue's off the road. Danny Boy hits the back. Yeah, Danny Boy, I think, hit the back of Philippe there going into the corner. Verstappen's wide. Peas threw up another place. Peas has gained, I think, 4 places in about 1 lap. What a lap for Peas that is. He's up into 8th place. Larkin is on the back of Alex, and Toxic in all of that has passed Ton somewhere. So this is a dream restart for Toxic. He's gapped Larkin quite considerably as Alex dives into the pit lane. And it's now Peas running in net 3rd. But here comes Verstappen back round the outside. Has he got the momentum coming? Let's hit the corner. He doesn't quite have it. Peas fends off the line. Verstappen has to back out of the move. Peas holds on to the place for the time being. But it's worked out amazingly well for the Campos driver.
Yes, indeed. What? Just taking advantage of mistakes around him. He is up all the way through into P7. We'll see if, of course, Verstappen's able to get back past him. Philippe still hanging with him. Gary inside the top 10, as well as Caesar all over the back of him, though, looking for a way through. Doesn't quite come to fruition, though, and he has to settle in behind. What a manic restart it has been to this race here at Zandvoort. They all know that it's so difficult to overtake, so they're just trying to force manoeuvres in the most unlikely positions possible, and going for all these overtaking moves. Caesar gets a little bit wide, going through 9, and that's all Maverick onto his tail there. JD Nolan making places, swoops around XL Ling. He's up to 13th, but of course still a long way ahead of him. Now Alt Maverick to the outside of Caesar. Can he get that one stopped on the inside of the chicane? Caesar gets very aggressive, squeezes him onto the curb, but Maverick is still there, does really well around the outside. Caesar still trying to stick it round on the exit though. Maverick looks like he might just get his nose in front. Caesar is forced to tuck in there. Great move from Maverick. He moves up to 11 there. Superb stuff from the American, and we've seen his comeback drives through this season already. He's up to 11. They're chasing points here in the feature race.
Absolutely flying is Maverick. Great move. Here comes Nolan now on his teammate. To his teammate early in the race is back past Caesar. So JD Nolan from 17th at the restart up to 12th. This is much more like it for the Dams man. He passes Caesar as well, who looks really struggling, and he's going to let Ling through as well. It looks like he's backing off. I don't know if he has some sort of issue or if he's just going to drop to the back of the queue, but he's dropped a number of places now. He falls further back. Toxic, meanwhile, all over the back of Matrix, coming into the top of the hill, but he's not got the inside line. He can't get the move stuck on the MP Motorsport man. The top 4 in a bit of a queue at the moment. Matrix has taken these soft tyres to lap 10. He's taken them very, very long. Obviously, that safety car would have helped him, but this strategy is really not going to pay off for him because he'll be on harder tyres than Chill and Campbell in front when they come into the pit lane. Same as Pun as well, a little bit further back. Killer Blue. Ooh, there's a little bit, I don't know if there's a bit of contact further up the field there.
Yeah, Toxic went for a very ambitious move on Matrix and was turned, with Matrix wasn't having any of it, and there was contact between them, and the championship leader almost went around. He was just about able to keep it on the island, but that could have got very, very nasty indeed. Looking up the front though, Campbell has managed to hold ahead of QVR Shell. They're both coming towards the pit lane now, and I suspect that, yep, you're going to see Campbell going in and Shell staying out. Now, what is going to be so demoralising for these guys is that Toxic was all over them already, having made an extra pit stop. Campbell knows, because we've seen there with Matrix how long he's been able to take those tyres. It looks as though the degradation's really, really low here, and I think that means that Campbell and the likes of Chill as well are going to suffer greatly from this. And Campbell and Killer Blue in the pits as well there. I'm not sure what's happened with him, but Campbell, of course, being forced in as well. These guys putting on soft tyres way down the field now, and they're going to be up against it. What's happened with Toxic?
Toxic down the inside of Matrix at the top of the hill once again. They go side by side. Nolan's crashed somewhere on the exit of the banked corner. He's hit the wall. I wonder if that brings out some sort of safety car. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, but Toxic down the inside of the corner at the top of the hill, just before the kink. He gets the move stuck on Matrix. He's up into second place now, just behind Chill, his teammate at the front of the field, who is yet to make a stop. Larkin, meanwhile, stuck behind Tun, so he's just pretty much waiting for Tun to come into the pit lane at this point and free him up. Killer Blue, meanwhile, I think he had front wing damage. That's why he's come into the pit lane. Campbell came out in 17th place. He's up to 15th already. He's passed Tim and Ibo, but 17th place. Campbell at this point is going to struggle to get into reverse grid position.
Indeed he is. He's got 5.5 seconds to make up just even to get onto the back of the train. That is a huge amount of ground that he can't afford to give up. So as Larkin, he's going to have a look at Ton Almanac. Indeed, as Ton knows, going to bail out. He goes into the pits then, and further back down the field there, Pease is still managing to make an admirable job of keeping Verstappen behind, but Verstappen this time might be getting a bit too impatient. Looks for a move on the outside there. He's desperate to get a maneuver. Can he get one done there? He's tucked in underneath the rear wing of Pease, but Pease has just been able to hang in behind. Meanwhile, Maverick is attacking Philippe, is not able to get through on this occasion, but Total Pease doing an admirable job keeping Verstappen behind. Verstappen is on for potentially an EP4 here. Pease, though, a brilliant race for him. Verstappen, being the nearest contender to Toxic and to Larkin, needs to get some solid good results there, and he needs, for the sake of his championship, to get past Total Pease as quickly as he can. But Pease not making it easy for him. They still run 5th and 6th. No overtakes just yet in that fight.
Absolutely great stuff from Pease so far, and I think Verstappen at the moment on for his fourth place finish in a feature race in a row this season. He's been cursed to finishing 4th so far, and at the moment, again, meanwhile in the background, Maverick was trying to get a move round the outside of turn 1 on Felipe. Maverick went just a little bit too deep into the corner, but Maverick is absolutely flying at this point. He's dropped XLing and XL. Caesar's down to 11th. He obviously passed Caesar about 2 laps ago. Maverick is flying. He's now down the inside, going for the outside for the penultimate corner on the track, round the outside of Philippe. Whoa. Another move round the outside of Maverick. He put a lot of faith in Philippe there. Philippe's going to have the run coming down the straight. Is Philippe going to get past, or is Philippe going to go into the pit lane? I think Philippe's coming in. He is, yeah. But Maverick, second move of the race where he's confident enough to go round the outside of someone and take the position. Great move for Maverick, and he's into 7th place with 2 people in front of him still yet to pit. He's on for another top 5 here.
This has so far been an overtaking masterclass from Old Maverick here. He's been putting on quite a few of those already this season and is looking on for yet another strong feature race result. We'll see if he can chase down the cars ahead. There's a long way for him to go though, and those 2 cars, Pease and Verstappen, are still running pretty strong pace out there on track. As meanwhile, we got Toxic. He's down the inside of his teammate, looks for the race lead, gets it. Toxic already, no pit stops to make. Chill, of course, has to come in, and Toxic, minus the start really, has driven an absolutely superb race, got into the lead early on, has controlled it from the front, and yet again, it's an absolutely phenomenal display in the feature race from Toxic MML. He is well out in front now, and he's chasing another win. It was his closest rival, Larkin, several seconds behind now.
Absolutely, yeah. Larkin once again stuck behind Matrix. He can't get through the field as quickly as Toxic. Toxic is able to just cruise onto the back of someone and pass them immediately. We have a spinner, Jordan JT. Jordan. Yeah, Jordan spun. I don't know if that's with contact. It looks like he's just spun, I think maybe on his own on the exit of the corner. That's the second Campos man as Matrix into the pit lane. Matrix took those soft tyres 13 laps into this race. I know he had a safety car, but I'm amazed he was able to take those tyres so long. I think he was maybe waiting for more gaps to form in the field so that he would come out relatively on his own so that he could perform pretty well towards the latter part of this race. Caesar and Ling are side by side. Meanwhile, Caesar, after a poor few laps, is trying to go around the outside. I think is that Verstappen that's made a mistake?
Yeah, Verstappen's going off at turn 1. Yeah.
Whoa. I don't know if that was maybe with contact with Pease, but Verstappen now behind Excelling. Excelling's made his way through. And yeah, Verstappen's now down with Caesar and Gary. So Caesar's managed to work his way past Gary. And Verstappen's now down to 7th place. That's already put Maverick in the top 5. And Chill is still yet to pit in this race. Pease on for... Well, Pease at this point is secure in 3rd place. He's got enough of a gap to Maverick behind to not really be under pressure. And again, another mistake from Verstappen. Only a small one, but it's cost him, just with how close the field is, it's cost him so many places already.
Indeed it is then. He really can be getting consistent podiums, but he just needs to try and hook up consistent races, which I didn't think would be a problem with him. He's usually such a classy driver, but not proven to be the case so far in the season. He needs to try and get his act together. But just to mention, for total Pease and for Alt Maverick, Pease started in 12th place, Maverick started 15th. And they're currently running 4th and 5th. That is absolutely incredible from both of them. It's chilled in from 2nd place into the pits, and he's going to fall well down the field. Those medium runners, or those medium starters, I should say, really lost out from the safety car, were very, very unlucky. And Chill was, of course, one of them. And he is probably going to drop well outside that top 10 there. And Campbell, as well, is going to be promoted. So he's managed to make the most of this, I suppose, but he's still got a lot of work to do to get on to that reverse grid pole position, as we've seen him do quite a few times this season. He's got some work to do. He's got a few seconds to make up, but he's still got time to do it. Campbell is charging hard. He wants that reverse grid pole and maybe try and chase the victory out there.
Absolutely, but one thing to note there from Campbell and Chill, Campbell's put those soft tyres on 4 laps ago. Chill's only put them on. Chill is still nearly within DRS range of Campbell, so I don't know whether Campbell's been using these tyres nice and consistently and not been too harsh on them because he had longer to go, or whether Campbell's just genuinely struggling for pace here, because Chill went 4 laps longer and is still right behind Campbell. Campbell's not, he's half the gap between him and Danny Boy in the last 4 laps, but Danny Boy has front wing damage, and then in front of that is Gary, and I don't really see, Campbell's not closing in that much, so it looks like both Trident cars are really struggling for pace.
Yes, indeed, and Campbell, he has not been able to shake Chill all the way through. In fact, I go as far as saying that in that first stint, Campbell was actually holding up Chill, and Chill just wasn't quite able to get a move done. He was all over him. He looked the quicker driver, and he looks the quicker driver now, certainly, as on those fresher tyres, as you mentioned, he is bearing down on the Scotsman in front of him. I gotta look now, because Verstappen's gonna be frustrated, he's gonna be furious, and he's chasing Excel Ling. But he's not close enough yet into the braking zone versus his fellow Dutchman, but he's still hunting for a top 5 out here, and maybe even 4th place. It'll be a good recovery drive for Verstappen if he can try and make that work after a few mistakes. He's going to try round the outside of Excel Ling. Ling, though, covers it off just about. Verstappen gets better traction on the exit there. Looks for any opportunity, any opening he can get. Caesar, as well, is tucked in underneath there. 5th. Through 7th, absolutely nose to tail, and still Ling holds on just about ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Caesar, but Verstappen still looking, swarming, looking for any opportunity he can get, but Ling covering off all angles, using the track to his advantage and holding ahead of Verstappen, but Longsap have cursed him. Verstappen takes the move down the inside, Ling tries to hold it there, they are wheel to wheel now, into turn 10, but Verstappen has the run, has momentum, and has the place just about on exit. Verstappen up into 5th, may have to defend the inside line into the chicane. Ling back up onto his rear wing, but unable to get through. Verstappen looks to have maybe salvaged a top 5 from this race. He runs 5th now, and he has Maverick now, 2.5 seconds up the road. He's going to try and chase him down in these last 3 laps.
Absolutely, you're trying to get back ahead of Maverick after that mistake. It looks like Ling's not close enough now. Caesar's on the back of Ling. Caesar get past. Ling's had a good race as well. He started outside the top 10. I think Caesar did as well. They're both inside. Here comes Caesar. Is he going to go for the inside move? Ling isn't defending the line. Caesar looks down the inside. How late can they be on the brakes? Caesar so late. Goes for an early turn into the corner to get the car stopped even quicker. Gets it down the inside and looks a clean move. Verstappen again, really sideways coming out of the corner. Just about holds onto it. Caesar gets past Ling as well. He's up into 6th place. Gary, despite not having damage, Danny Boy behind him has damage, but Danny Boy has re-caught Gary for 8th place in reverse grid pole at the moment. Campbell hasn't caught these guys, and look at Chill, only 0.2 per second behind. Chill's picked up damage somewhere though. Chill, I think, maybe has hit the back of Campbell and has broken his front wing. These two are still compromised, despite being on the faster tyres. They're still compromised at the moment. Campbell hits the grass on the inside of the corner, and Chill just doesn't have the corner speed to get past Campbell with that front wing damage. They are now actually being caught quite rapidly by Ton. Ton at the moment is the fastest man on the soft tyres. He's now actually within DRS range. Ton is absolutely flying and seems to be the fastest person on the soft tyres at the moment.
I am so surprised. These guys, I don't think it's that they lack pace at this track. They qualified 3rd and 4th, but in this race, it's just not quite come together for them, even on the mediums at the start. Now, I will admit, they have been very, very unlucky with the timing of the safety car. That really hurt their chances. But even so, they've not quite been able to fight back. As now I think Caesar is going to try and rally back. And he might attack Verstappen here. Verstappen has not quite been able to break these guys. And Caesar now in the slipstream with DRS. He's over 300 kilometers an hour and now looking for a move. But Verstappen covers the line, moves to the middle of the track and defends well. He holds Caesar. But Caesar, having essentially let the entire field past him at one stage, is now battling for a top 5 there. The Indian driver has made quite a remarkable recovery in this race as well, and is now hounding the Dutchman, looking for a way past Verstappen. Despite having a good recovery drive himself, is also struggling here, and Caesar is all over him, and in fact, he's going for a manoeuvre on him. Verstappen shuts the door. Very, very close to knocking off the front wing of Caesar. Caesar's going to have to be careful there. Verstappen getting elbows out. It's just been able to stay ahead of Caesar, but I think that the Trident driver is going to be under pressure there. Caesar looking for any sort of move there. The Dam's looking for a top 5 to kick off his season.
Absolutely, and Verstappen trying so hard to hold on to the places that he lost.
Oh,
meanwhile, in the background, Campbell's round. Both of them around. Campbell and Chill.
Wow.
Chill may be gone for a move at the hairpin on Campbell, and they've both spun out of reverse grid pole contention. It was a battle between Gary, Danny Boy, and those two. They both spun. If this race could not get any worse for them, they are now 12th and 13th. We're on the last lap of the race already. I don't know where this race has gone. But Chill and Campbell, 12th and 13th, contact, it looks like, for the second time in this race. Chill's broken his front wing again, and it's now between Gary and Danny Boy for reverse grid pole at the moment. What a turn of events as Caesar, once again, he's much closer this time around going into turn 1 on the back of Verstappen. He goes to the outside. Can Verstappen brake late enough on the corner? No, Caesar swipes across in front of him to get the line for the corner. Is he going to have the run out the corner? He is. Caesar works his way back into the top 5 after a poor midpoint of the race. He's back into the top 5. Like you said, what a comeback from Caesar, and again Verstappen struggling because Excelling has re-caught these guys. So Verstappen drops to 6th place once again. It's not worked out for him. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, we've completely ignored the top 3 for the last 2 hours. Toxic! What on earth? He's hit the wall! He's hit the wall coming out of the hairpin!
Oh my word! Toxic! With just half a lap to go, and he's come together. He's gone into the wall, turn 9. He only had a few more corners to negotiate, and Toxic has thrown away the race win here. I don't know the circumstances of that, but that is unbelievable, unprecedented. And Larkin is the man that's going to take full advantage of that. He's already celebrating, already waving, and somehow, from somewhere, Larkin, I can barely get my words out, he comes up to the line and he is going to win the feature race here at Zandvoort in the most incredible, remarkable turn of events. Total pays a brilliant drive to 2nd, and Maverick yet again is going to snatch a podium from somewhere, from nowhere almost. He comes home P3 ahead of Caesar 4th, Verstappen 5th in the end, Len gets 6th, Gary 7th, Danny Boy will come through with reverse grid pole in an absolutely chaotic race. Toxic, oh my word, that is absolutely monumental for the championship.
That is monumental. Campbell and Chill were side by side coming over the line. Campbell, in the end, just beat Chill across the line, but then Philippe has passed Chill on penalties. And yeah, it's going to be Danny Boy on reverse grid pole. Despite having damage, Danny Boy still picks up reverse grid pole. Good stuff from him, but like you say, final lap of the race, Toxic had a 5-second lead. He didn't need to be pushing. I think what's happened here is the curb on the outside of the hairpin is very, very high, and if you touch that curb in the acceleration zone, it's very easy to spin. I wonder if Toxic has just hit that curb and got on the power too early and just spun all on his own, because he can't have come into contact with Ibbo. Ibbo's a lap down, and they weren't close together on the track, but Ibbo would have ghosted, so there's no contact between the two of them. That is incredible. Toxic throwing away an easy, almost dominant victory, and that means for the 5th race in a row, Larkin finishes in the top 2. If you could not get any more consistent than Larkin, this is incredible. Toxic has had the pace, but again, Larkin picking up the pieces where other people make mistakes, and now he's going to take the lead of the championship.
I am stunned. I am absolutely just gobsmacked that race has turned on its head like that with half a lap to go. Of course, Larkin is the beneficiary in both the race and the championship, and as well, he'll start ahead of Toxic for the next round, of course. Toxic is going to be absolutely furious with himself with just half a lap to go, and that is going to turn things massively on their head. The remarkable consistency of Larkin shines through this time. He is your race winner in the feature race.
Absolutely, his first feature race win of the season. He's picked up 2 sprint race wins so far this season, but now he gets the feature race this time round. That's exactly what he needed. He's won 2 sprint races, but it hasn't got him enough points to challenge Toxic at the front. But now it's Toxic that's going to be playing catch up. The dynamic has completely shifted. Larkin wins the 3rd feature race of the season. Pease in 2nd place. What a podium from Pease that is on his debut this season. Maverick, like you say, once again, Maverick said at the start of the season, after Silverstone, he picked up a podium in the preseason race at Silverstone, and he said, don't expect any more podiums for me so far for the rest of the season. I think it was just a fluke. That's his 2nd podium of the season in 2 rounds. Great stuff from him in the Carlin. Caesar in 4th ahead of Verstappen in 5th. Ling in 6th. Gary 7th. Danny Boy 8th and on reverse grid pole. Ton in 9th, and Matrix rounds off the top 10. Matrix in the end ended up ahead of both Campbell and Chill, so he ended up being the one on the alternate strategy. Oh, actually, no, it was Ton, sorry. The one that couldn't pit, the safety car that made the most of it. Campbell only 11th ahead of Philippe, Chill, Alex, Jordan, Tim, Ibo, Toxic and Killer Blue and JD Nolan did not finish that race. And Toxic is going to have to start the sprint race from 18th on the grid. It's going to be I imagine we're going to get a stellar performance from him coming through the field, but 18th on the grid, that is going to be such a struggle to get, I think, even into the top 10.
Yes, indeed, but if anyone can do it, we know it's Toxic. We've seen his overtaking progress throughout this season. He is going to have to put on a show here today, but of course now we look towards the sprint race now. So I'm not actually sure it's going to be on pole position here. I think it might be maybe Gary or Danny Boy, one of the sorts. But of course now you're going to have the likes of Larkin starting a little bit further down the field. He's going to have to try and work his way back up and maybe try and keep up that remarkable record of top 2s that he's had throughout this season. But now we're going to see how the likes of Pease and Maverick, who made that drive to the field as well in the last race, if they can do it again here today and get onto that podium yet again. An absolutely manic feature race. We're going to follow up with hopefully yet another fantastic and action-packed sprint race here again at Zandvoort. So without much more to say, let's get this underway.
Absolutely, yeah, incredible stuff from Larkin. Let's see if he can get his 6th podium in a row, his 6th top 2 finish in a row. That'd be incredible stuff from him. And for Toxic, if he's not winning, he's not on the podium so far. So while Toxic has the outright speed and is getting pole positions and fastest laps, he's not finished on the podium. When he's not won, he's not been on the podium. So it's crazy to think that his season, he's in the lead he was in the lead of the championship before the feature race, even though he had such up and down results between feature and sprint races. So it's crazy to see that once again, and this is the first time a feature race has gone wrong for him this season, and this is something we didn't really see last season. Was obviously Toxic started at the back of the field for most of the season, being the championship leader, but we didn't really see him make a mistake last season at really any point. This is the first crack in the armour we see from Toxic.
It could well be, and I do hope that it's not a sign of things to come throughout the season, because if he doesn't sort it out, eventually the consistency of Larkin would overwhelm the kind of hot and coldness of Toxic the way he's going along at the moment. So he really needs to stamp his authority on this championship, and it starts with this sprint race. He is 10 places behind his championship rival on the grid. He has to try and cut that down throughout this race to try and stay in it at this early portion of the championship. Danny Boy it is who starts pole position, and I'm excited to see how he shapes up actually, because he's a driver that I think has been caught up in quite a few incidents in his first few races and has not really started up near the front of the grid. So I'm curious to see how the Welshman can maybe try and stamp his authority and maybe claim home a race win. We'll see how that all ends up. I'm sure Gary, Ling, Verstappen, such experienced drivers are going to be looking to try and dispossess him of that. It's going to be such an exciting race in prospect. We'll get it underway shortly.
Absolutely. Another thing to remember though, Verstappen finishing 5th in that race, I actually think that means Verstappen also moves ahead of Toxic in the championship, just because I think Verstappen was 16 points behind. I think it was 16 or 15. I don't know how many points Verstappen got for that 5th place finish, but even with a good result here in the sprint race, Verstappen could also get ahead of Toxic, which actually, despite a poor race from him in the feature race, could throw him into the championship fight now. But he's got a big lead. But here we go for the sprint race. It's Danny Boy and Gary on the front row. I'll hand over to you, Daka, for the start of the sprint race. But this is going to be such an interesting race to watch.
Let's see how it all shapes up over 13 laps here at Zandvoort. So, the grid is now ready. All the drivers are lined up. Danny Boy and Gary, that's your front row. Ahead of the sprint race there as we have 3, 4, 5 lights. And we are away for the sprint race here in F2. It's a great start from Danny Boy. He is shot off the line and is ahead by several car lengths. Ling has gone ahead of Gary as well. Going into turn 1, then 3 wide. Further back down the field there. Gary trying to hold it out there, but it's actually Maverick that's made an absolutely brilliant start. He's up ahead of the Irishman, but Gary face back right outside looking to try and get himself up towards that podium place there. He has that lane there on the inside. Maverick gets traction out of it there as Danny Boy though has made a dream start, and he's got a bit of a ticket now towards the front of this race. Toll Pease has managed to fend off Larkin off the start. He's not got away particularly well. Caesar is stacked up behind him there. Toxic hasn't made the start that he would have wanted either. He has to back out from move with Alex. There's a Delta just about manages to sort itself out, but yeah, it's Danny Boy who makes a great start up at the front. Ling Verstappen, that's your podium for the moment there. Danny Boy leads it there. He's got the two Dutchmen chasing him down early on. We'll see if he can hold on up at the front.
Absolutely, relatively clean start in the end. I don't think there's been any contact throughout the field. It's been nice. There's been obviously a little bit wheel-to-wheel banging, but no front wing losses. But what a dream start from Danny Boy. The lights went out and he just disappeared. That was an incredible start. That's very reminiscent of reminiscent of Jack Aitken's start in Formula 2 in Monza last season, where he just let the lights went out and he disappeared. He left everyone for dust. But Ling has already re-caught him. He's absolutely fine. Campbell, meanwhile, has passed Philippe coming through the final corner. Philippe, I think, has actually made a mistake because here comes Matrix trying to get past as well. Matrix trying to go around the outside, down the inside, sorry, as Larkin's now going down the inside of Gary, and he's got the move stuck. Gary from the front row was already dropped to 6th place. It's in the start. He's won in the ART. See, trying to get a move on Pease. He's not quite close enough into turn 2. Toxic up into 13th place. Matrix trying to go for that move on Philippe. Hasn't worked. He's trying to get back at Toxic round the outside, but he's just too wide. Can't get the run out of the corner, and Toxic up into 13th. He's only a place behind his teammate now, so it's Chill and Toxic 12th and 13th. Campbell's worked his way into the top 10. He's just behind Tun. Caesar in 8th. Pease in 7th. Swarming all over the back of Gary. Gary's really struggling for pace at the moment. He's the cork in the bottle. Everyone in front of him's kind of disappeared up in front, but it's Danny Boy that leads. But here comes Verstappen. Verstappen's the one on the move. He's caught Ling very, very quickly. We've got a yellow flag. That's Jordan JT. Jordan JT's spun, and he's hit the wall, I think, on the inside on the exit of the corner. I don't know if he's picked up any damage from it. We'll have to wait and see. I think he has, unfortunately, in the Campos car. Actually, no, he hasn't. He hasn't picked up any damage. He's just spun. Maybe trying to get an overtake done at the corner. It's just not worked. And he's down at the back of the field, unfortunately. Toxic, meanwhile, down the inside of his teammate. He's going to get the move done. Coming out of the corner. He's already side by side with Philippe, but not close enough. But Toxic absolutely flying. He's nearly into the top 10 already from the back of the grid. He's run a little bit wide there, but gets away with it. I don't think he's going to be quite close enough to Philippe. There's no DRS as of yet. Danny Boy sets the fastest out, but Larkin half a second quicker on that lap, and Larkin's on the back of Volt Maverick. The top 5 though have gapped the rest of the field. Gary's the cork in the bottle. He's stuck in 6th place and is really struggling for pace.
And Toxic is through on Philippe out of turn 1 there. This is the confident and committed start that Toxic needed to this race. He's closing down his championship rival from last year, Campbell, who massively locks up. What's going on? Is it up ahead?
That was just Campbell locking up. He went way too wide. So did Philippe in the background. So Chill's down the inside of Philippe coming up to the corner. He's already made the move stick. The momentum he had, he's already passed. Oh! Toxic tried to go for a move on Campbell. Campbell shut the door. There was a bit of contact. They get away with it. That was so close to disaster for Toxic. Well held, but he tried to go for a move. Campbell was having absolutely none of it, and Campbell holds on to 10th for the time being. But that is the more aggressive driver this is the most aggressive driver really that Toxic's come up against so far in this race is Campbell, when it's already showing Campbell will not having Toxic come past him.
And you mentioned a corker. As Larkin goes to the outside of Volt Maverick there. A surprising move at the chicane. He may just be able to pull off. Yellow's back there as well. That's one of the Virtuosi cars. Larkin squeezes Maverick out onto the curb. And eventually the American has the yield. Larkin threw up in a 4th. He's now got the top 3 in their sights then. He is absolutely flying. As Toxic as well. Making a move.
7th.
He is up into 7th. I think there's been calamities back there. There's a huge train. And it's Campbell that's dropped back there. Toxic into 7th. What a remarkable start. It has been for the defending champion, but Caesar's coming back at him, and he looks towards the inside of turn one. Bit of contact between them there. They're just been able to keep it in a straight line. And look at Campbell. He's side by side with his compatriot, Tan Albanach. Gets his nose in front of it tonight. So Campbell goes through. Chill round down in turn two. What's happened there?
Yeah, Chill dived it down the inside of turn two and just hopped over the curb. There wasn't enough room. It was a very audacious move. It's not worked out for him. Another week where it's just not gone Chill's way. He's down to 15th after that. Pease is the one that's come into contact. He's dropped from the front of the field. He's down to 14th. So he's contact with Gary maybe trying to make an overtake stick, and he's the one that's come unstuck, and it's Toxic that's ended up in 7th place. He's ahead of Caesar and Ton, so he's obviously passed them in all that chaos somewhere. I don't know how on earth that's happened or how he missed it, but he's up into 7th place and is now on the back of Gary for 6th. Toxic is still on for a top 5, as now Larkin is swarming all over the back of Verstappen. I know Larkin, we say, doesn't have the pace, but Larkin is so much faster than the 3 guys in front of him. Danny Boy's pulled away. He had a bit of a rough first lap after a good start. He got caught, but now Danny Boy's disappearing up in front, and it's now Ling that's the cork in the bottle, holding Verstappen and Larkin up.
Indeed he is, then. Verstappen and Larkin are going to be getting more and more impatient. We'll see if they start trying to throw moves at the ever-consistent Dutchman. Verstappen closes in, but is not able to get a move done. As now Campbell looks to try and get back at Caesar. He is down the inside. Caesar again, just like he did in the last race, is letting cars through. I'm not sure. That's very peculiar to me. As Matrix is able to outbrake. He's got damage, has he?
Yeah, Caesar's got damage on the front of his front wing. He's obviously hit the wall somewhere. I don't know quite on earth where he's hit the wall around this track. It might be at the last corner that he's hit the wall coming out of it. Oh, we got contact in the background. Is that?
Oh, he's got for Larkin. He's going to go round the outside of Verstappen. Verstappen just about fends him off, shuts the door. And the 3 of them were absolutely nose to tail at one point. Verstappen must be eager for any sort of move. And Larkin was very nearly into the back of the Trident man. He is desperate for any sort of overtaking manoeuvre. And Danny Boy is taking full advantage of this. That gap is growing and growing and growing, and will continue to extend if they continue to battle. Now Toxic, looking at Gary. He is down the inside, going into the chicane. Brakes pretty damn late, and he's going to be able to clear it before they even turn into the corner. Toxic already 6th. I mentioned that there's a 10 car difference between, or 10 position difference between Larkin and Toxic. Toxic has done exactly what he needed to do, cut that down. Now he's only 1 car between himself and his championship rival, in only about 2 seconds. So Larkin has got to get a move on himself, and he's going to start with Verstappen, closing him down the main straight. Verstappen just about able to fend him off. Actually looks towards the outside there. He's left himself vulnerable though to attack. Larkin tries to get up and alongside him. Verstappen will see it off. Just about to hold on to that 3rd place, but Ling is doing all he can to defend. But at the moment, you mentioned that's that cork in the bottle effect, and he is backing up Verstappen, he's backing up Larkin, and now Maverick with him. What's going on as well?
Was Larkin nearly running into the back of Verstappen? He kind of had to swipe out of the way to avoid the back of the Trident man, who was so slow coming out of the bank corner, but Larkin got caught out by it. We got a yellow flag somewhere. That's Matrix that spun. Yeah, he spun on the exit of the hairpin and hit the wall, I think, in the MP Motorsport car. That is a shame. He'd worked his way back into the top 10. He's got no damage, so he can continue without pitting in this race. That's put Gary up into 8th. That's put the likes of Pease back up into 11th. He's passed Alex on this lap as well. Oh, there's more contact because Alex and Philippe came into contact into the kink there, and they just about get away with it. Philippe trying to go for an audacious move down the inside. Alex was having absolutely none of it, and he holds on to 12th for the time being. I would say Larkin must be absolutely heartbroken to see Toxic in 6th place already. If you've just tuned into this race, reminder that Toxic started this race 18th on the grid. We're just starting lap 7, and he's already 6th. And he's already within DRS range of Maverick for 5th place. This has been a stellar race from him, as Campbell's now on the back of Gary for P7. This is more like it from Campbell. Struggled quite a bit in the feature race, but he's now down the inside. Gary doesn't even bother defending the move. Toxic does a 21.1. That's an incredibly fast lap. As down the inside goes Campbell. Easy move in the end. Gary didn't fight it. He's up into 7th place. Gary drops to 8th, and he's made a move stick. Much better pace this time around from Campbell, but Toxic, he's obviously very angry, trying to make up for the mistake he made in the sprint race, because he's absolutely flying.
Yes, indeed. And a very, very impatient Verstappen is looking all over the back of Exo Ling. Ling covers it off and breaks very early, I must say, in a turn 7. And that's going to be severely angering, I think, all the guys stacked up. That now includes Toxic MML. What a recovery drive. As now Verstappen looks for a lunge on Ling. Ling is actually caught out by that. He's made the mistake. Runs wide, and now he's on the defensive. Now he's under attack. Verstappen can look for any sort of better exit there. Link tries to park it, tries to struggle for traction, and he's held up Verstappen a decent amount. But I think that the Trident's still going to try and pounce there. Looks for that second place, but no, it doesn't quite come off. Little bit of contact, and now Larkin down the inside of Verstappen. Verstappen just about holds it around the outside. Is going to squeeze Larkin to the outside of the penultimate corner, but the Ardent does not yield, and he may be able to get through there. Verstappen barely leaves him enough space, and they go towards the wall, and Larkin's been put into the wall there. Does he still have damage? Watch Toxic! Toxic with a run on both of them now, after they came together, and he's onto the podium from 18th on the grid, has the inside line on Verstappen. Maverick as well, making progress. He's down the inside of Larkin, who's lost out completely from this, and there's contact with Maverick now. Into the wall goes Maverick. He's going to spear across the track and almost take out Campbell, who now's up into 6th after all that there, and we have a VSC out on track. Wow, what on earth is going on there?
That is such a shame for Maverick, having a top 5 run, having such a good race, caught out by Larkin's mistake, and Maverick was just the innocent party in that one, put in the wall because of Larkin spinning. But I think that Larkin's going to be pretty mad with that move from Verstappen. Verstappen basically just put Larkin in the wall coming in through the final corner, and Toxic the corner before had made the move round the outside of the chicane to get past Maverick and was in prime position, and his 2 closest championship rivals basically just opened. Here you go, here's the 3rd place already onto the back of Ling. Toxic it's not out of question. Toxic could still win this race.
That would be the most incredible drive from Toxic, and an emphatic recovery from a disaster in that feature race, of course. As we got a penalty for Maverick there. Another huge blow to his race. He's now got Gary over the back from there, as we've got what's going on. Cars coming into contact behind.
That was Toxic nearly spun coming out of the chicane. Nolan's retired in the pit lane. Toxic nearly spun coming out of the chicane. Here comes Verstappen trying to get back past the Premier Man. He's down the inside. He's got the run. Toxic, I think, has got DRS though on Ling in front to defend. So it's all going to be about who breaks latest for turn 1, and it's definitely Toxic. Toxic sends it into the braking zone. Verstappen can't match his braking distance, and he holds on to 3rd for the time being and closes in on Ling in that process as well. Verstappen, Larkin was actually coming under pressure from Campbell, who's now worked his way into 6th place. Gary's in 7th ahead of Caesar and Tun. P's back into the top 10. Maverick and Matrix into the pit lane to repair damage, I think. But look at Toxic. He's already a 10th behind Ling. Look how quickly he's caught him. He's taken about 0.6 of a second out of him in the first few corners. He tries to go around the outside at the top of the hill, but that's just not on. That's not a move that you can pull off there. Even Toxic can't pull that move off, and Ling holds on for the time being. This has been an amazing defensive drive from Ling, but I'll be shocked if he can hold Toxic back.
I suspect that his defense may only last a few more seconds, as Toxic has completely set him up here for a run. But again, Ling just holds it back on the exit there. It's masterful defending, but it's no use when you're defending from someone like Toxic, who looks to the inside. Ling brave on the brakes, but Toxic is braver, and they make a little bit of contact. Ling almost goes around. Verstappen had to get out of it as well. He was closing in fast on those guys, but Toxic is through. Gap. Danny Boy, Toxic, 3.8 seconds. Can the defending champion close in that gap from 18th to 1st? It's quite the prospect, but it might not be out the window, as now his Ling's defense going to fall apart here, because Verstappen is roll over him now to the inside. Can he finally get him out the way? No! Ling's very late, but maybe too late on the brakes, as Larkin and Campbell as well dueling in behind. Ling gets traction on the exit, and he might just hold off Verstappen. He does. Campbell just about unable to get through on Larkin, but he's swarming all over him now. Gary Caesar's gone off there at turn 2 as well. He's pulled off to the side there, and the Indian suffers another blow to his racer. He's now outside the top 10, but he still might get points there, but that is hugely disappointing, as Verstappen still on the back of Ling, but Ling is defending so well there and still holding a podium place.
Absolutely. We've got 3.5 laps to go in this race. Danny Boy must be so annoyed to see Toxic in 2nd place. What a race this has been from Toxic. What a comeback. The race isn't over yet though. Toxic in 2nd place, 3.2 seconds behind Danny Boy. Danny Boy's been comfortably out front this entire race. This is the race he's needed all season, but now he's going to be under pressure from the championship protagonist Toxic. Ling still holding Verstappen up. Larkin has re-caught this queue of cars, so it's again another 3-car train as we've got another car around. That's Matrix that spun again, it looks like, coming out of the hairpin. Unfortunately, he spun coming out of the corner for the 2nd time in this race, and we've got another car in the wall.
Oh,
Tun's gone straight on and hit the barrier at the end of the chicane. I don't know if he's had some sort of failure. We have a virtual safety car, but something must have went wrong for Tun there, because just based on the track map, it didn't even look like Tun braked for the corner.
That is a peculiar, very odd accident there for the Scotsman, and he is, of course, not going to bring home any points from this sprint race. I'm not sure if he had a technical issue, because that's a very odd way to crash here. I don't imagine that a driver as experienced as Ton Albanak's going to make a mistake like that, so I do believe that he's probably had some sort of issue with his equipment. But either way, it has held back the field, and of course, very unlucky for Ton. But it does mean that Danny Boy has a little bit of a reprieve from the ever-charging defending champion of Toxic MML. Of course, that VSC will be over soon though, and Toxic is going to be unleashed, and I'm sure that he's going to go on a furious charge there. And with 2.5 laps to go, I don't imagine this fight for the win is over just yet. Then Danny Boy's going to have to work for this. Their Toxic is on the charge.
Absolutely, yeah. One thing to look out for, 2.5 laps to go. Larkin's going to lose his podium run here. He's running in 5th. 3rd is just up the road, but he's not quite close enough. Verstappen runs a little bit wide there as the virtual safety car has ended. And Verstappen made a mistake. Larkin's down the inside. He's got just enough room, but Verstappen's going to have the momentum around the outside. He holds on for the time being. Verstappen was a bit late to restart on that one, and Larkin trying to pounce on him as Verstappen once again trying to look to the inside of Ling, but he's not close enough. Once again, he hops over the curb, but he can't get past. Toxic 2.5 seconds behind Danny Boy. At this moment, he's not quite closing in enough to take the lead of the race. Here comes Verstappen though, through the penultimate corner. A little bit of a lock-up though. Compromises his run on the exit, but he's got a great run coming through the final corner. Surely this is it for Ling's defence. Verstappen is less than a tenth behind him through the DRS line. He has to tuck back into the slipstream. It looks like Ling's got a fast car in a straight line as we come round the outside. Does Verstappen, is he late enough on the brakes this time round? He's very late, but he locks up Larkin, trying to make it 2 people around the outside of Ling at that corner. But finally, Verstappen on lap 12 of this race finally gets past Ling. It's a day late and $1 short for his race win, but he's thrown up onto the podium. Ling loses out, and now Larkin, Campbell trying to look up the inside of Larkin, but not enough room there. And now here comes Larkin coming up the hill. He's going to on the Chiru car, he's going to look to the inside, look to the outside. He's swapping places all the way through. He's having a look to the inside, but again, not close enough. Ling holds on to 4th for the time being. Finally, Verstappen through, but it's just too late in this race. 4 seconds behind Toxic and not within a shot of winning this race.
Of course, you mentioned he might be second in the championship after that last feature race. Yeah, it does run wide though, and Ling is coming back at him a little bit, and almost looking to the inside there, but he's compromising his own run there, and he does have to look over his shoulder, because Larkin, after coming together with Verstappen early on, he is not going to be a happy man, and he is going to be trying to hunt for at least trying to salvage a 4th place, but his presumably huge championship lead is going to get cut quite a bit there from a remarkable drive from Toxic. Now, it doesn't look like he is quite going to get Danny Boy in time. Danny Boy is taking advantage of all the fighting behind him, and he is going towards his race win, but the nerves, the heart rate, it must be absolutely through the roof for Danny Boy. He's got 1 lap between himself and a maiden win, but Toxic is bearing down on him now. He's looking like Ling down the inside of Verstappen for a late podium bet. Verstappen though is going to have momentum. He's going to have the traction, and Ling almost comes to blows. I can barely get my words out of turn 1. He's just been able to stay ahead of Larkin in 3rd place there, but Larkin is going to go to the outside. Can he pull that one off there on the outside? Looks for the Campbell, gets better traction. Can he get that one done? Whoa, Larkin, unbelievable. Larkin, 4th place there. That is an incredible, remarkable overtake there. Larkin runs 4th there. Doesn't have any chance of salvaging a podium from Verstappen there. He's chasing down, looking for that 3rd place. Verstappen's going to have to hang on here.
That is such a brilliant move from Larkin, trying everything to get back on the podium, trying to reduce the deficit that he's going to lose to Toxic. Toxic just within DRS range, I think, Danny Boy, but there's only a few corners to go in this race. Danny Boy just needs to have a mistake-free run to the end, and he's got this 1-1. Toxic is still in 2nd place, really closing in. Verstappen 5 seconds back now. Doesn't look like Larkin's going to be close enough to challenge Verstappen for that podium, so it's going to be whether Verstappen picks up a penalty. Verstappen a little bit wide in the chicane, but he's got enough of a gap to hold on. Pease and Gary are fighting massively, coming down into the chicane. Pease trying to go round the outside, can't get the move done. Here comes Chill trying to get past as well, and now he's down the inside once again, but Gary puts him on the curb. Pease can't get the move done. Whoa. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Danny Boy just crosses the line, a 1/10 of a second ahead of Toxic. He just held on. Toxic set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap, trying to close in. He just holds on to the MP Motorsport man by a 1/10 of a second. Verstappen holds on for a podium. First time this season, 6th race of the season. It's the first time that Larkin is not on the podium. He's 4th, and he'll be devastated at the fact that he had a 10 grid slot advantage over his championship rival coming into this race and still finished behind him.
That may be a contender for driver of the season from Toxic.
Wow.
With a full grid of drivers, he's able to get back from the rear and almost come out on top. Danny Boy, that is the epitome of winning at the slowest possible speed. Less than 0.2 of a second, the margin over the line. Wow, wow, wow. That is going to be it then. We're just waiting for the last few cars to come through now after, well, quite an incredible night of racing yet again. As Caesar actually steals the fastest lap from Toxic. Now, of course, 2 points for the fastest lap there, and that is going to hurt Toxic's advantage over Larkin. But nevertheless, what an incredible drive it was then. He is second, just shy of grabbing the win from Danny Boy, and he gets himself back into the championship picture there. That is an absolutely vital race as far as Toxic is concerned, and a bit of a blow to Larkin there after that contact with Verstappen set him back there. He loses ground in that championship fight.
Absolutely loses ground. It looks like Larkin might still hold on to the championship lead going into the 4th round of the season, but Toxic has regained some of the points back he lost in the feature race with that mistake. Like you said, what a drive from Toxic from 18th on the grid on a track that theoretically you can't overtake on. I mean, we say you theoretically can't overtake on this track, but that's the race this season with the most overtakes. I think we've had the most overtakes so far this season at a track you can't overtake at. So if we were racing at Monaco this season, Christ almighty, that race would be crazy based on that theory. But just, I mean, we talk about Toxic having a good race, but we've got to give a shout out for Danny Boy. Danny Boy's had a bit of a tumultuous start to the season. He's not been able to take part in any feature race until today, just through to timing issues. Finally gets in, and he's shown good pace all the races he's taken part, and he's finally got that confidence boosting result with a win in the sprint race, and that's a great result for him. And it's the first person really other than the likes of Toxic and Larkin to take a win. It literally it is. I think it is the first person other than Larkin and Toxic to take a win this season.
Yeah, and one thing I quickly want to mention is that I think that, I'm not sure how the scoring works, but on this standing at least, it looks as though Toxic has been given the points for fastest lap. I think because it might just be fastest lap inside the top 10. I'm not sure how exactly that works, but it looks as though he might still get those points, which could be all important. But Danny Boy it is, who of course takes home the race win. I'll leave it to you to run us through the results.
Absolutely, yeah. Second from 18th on the grid for Toxic. What a race from him. Makes up for the feature race mistake. Verstappen on the podium in 3rd place ahead of Larkin. In 4th place, still a good result, but his first non-podium of the season, ahead of Ling in 5th, Campbell 6th, Gary 7th, Chill 8th, Pease 9th, Alex rounds off the top 10 in the Uni Virtuosi, ahead of Felipe in 11th, Jordan in 12th, Killer Blue 13th, Ibo 14th, Caesar only 15th, Maverick only 16th. What could have been for him? Could have been another top 5 for him, but he got caught out with Larkin spinning across the track. Matrix in 17th ahead of Tim in 18th place. Tun in 19th, apparently he had a wheel disconnect, and that's why he ended up in the wall. And then JD Nolan retiring from the race relatively early. He finishes in 20th. After a good qualifying for JD Nolan, today's races just did not go his way. 2 retirements, 2 20th place finishes in his first round of the season.
Yes, but of course he has a long way to go to try and improve on that. But yeah, I don't think there's much more to say about this race. Danny Boy with the win. Toxic in vital 2nd place for the championship. We'll see, of course, how that all goes down in the points. I suspect that Larkin will have a relatively healthy championship lead, but it's not the size that it would have done if he just about, of course, with that contact that he had with Verstappen, really just set the floodgates open for Toxic. He took full advantage and he's clawed some points back then, and I think that his main rivals, seemingly Verstappen and Larkin, are going to have some work to do to try and fight back in the next round.
Absolutely, but this week's race has really blown the championship wide open. The first really costly mistake this season from Toxic means that by the end of this race, I mean, we said it last week that we thought Larkin would be in the lead in the championship, but the points for pole and fastest lap meant Toxic kept the lead. You never know, Toxic might still be in the lead of the championship at the end of this round, but it's very likely that Larkin's taken over that top spot, and that consistency still pays off for him. But yeah, like you say, what a drive from Toxic. I don't know how you're going to choose it, but I'm going to ask you for a drive of the day. Who do you think who's your drive? I'm gonna have to do it. I have to do it every week, man. I have to ask who your drive of the day is. I don't know how I'm going to choose, so I'm basically just going to make you choose and copy you.
Oh my word. I think I'm going to say a driver that maybe didn't necessarily, I'm going to say, because this is a driver that drove a brilliant feature race and was rather unlucky in the sprint race. It's Alt Maverick. Absolutely superb yet again. From 15th to 3rd, in that feature, of course, and again was still fighting for a podium in the sprint race before getting caught up in an incident that really wasn't his fault. So yeah, I think that overall he drove brilliantly today and pretty much maximised what he could get, despite maybe a couple of mistakes. But yeah, I think that he drove a fantastic session, and yeah, I think he's done very well. There's not much more to say, really.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd give accolades to him as well. I think he downplayed his hopes for the season after the preseason round we had at Silverstone, but it's gone really well for him since then. Two podiums this season. Obviously, could have had a third in the sprint race with regards to that contact. That's a shame that he was unlucky. I'm also going to give a shout out though to Pease. He had a great feature race, finishing second in the end from outside the top 10 on the grid. He was 12th on the grid, I believe, wasn't he? And he ended up finishing the race in second place. And despite he came into contact with Gary, I believe, early on in the sprint race, fell down to 14th, worked his way back up into 9th place. So he had a good comeback in the end in the sprint race as well, despite there being no safety cars in that one to allow him to catch up. So I'm going to have to, I think my driver of the day, I think I'm going to have to give it to Pease, just based on this being his first round and the performance he put in the feature race.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think he was another driver that I was definitely considering. They both done very well, of course, today, as well as a lot of our other main championship protagonists, of course. But I've not really got much more to say here. Great night of racing. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. Can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely, yeah. Can't wait for next week. I cannot remember what the round is next week. I think it's Spain. Yeah, it is Spain. There we go. My memory serves me right. I do have the memory of a goldfish, but we got there in the end. It is Spain next week, so it is an official Formula 2 track next week, and it is again another completely different track. So that's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top in Spain. Can Top 6 fight back and retake the lead of the championship? Can Larkin hold on for another round? We'll have to wait and see. Thank you very much, Daka, for joining me in the comments box once again. It's always a pleasure to commentate alongside you. Tune in again on Saturday for the rest of the divisions for the Zandvoort race in Formula 1 round 4 of the season for the divisions. Also tune in on League Racing TV tomorrow to see myself and Daka once again, because the Esports Masters League is starting up again tomorrow, and a lot of people that race today will be racing in either tier for relative teams. I believe QVR are taking part. I think both teams are taking part, aren't they, tomorrow?
Yeah,
as well?
that's absolutely right. Yeah,
so they are both taking part. So cheer on your favourite drivers, cheer on me and Daka. It's going to be a fun experience, and that'll be a good thing to watch. It's a great event, the Masters League. It's great to watch. I know Daka's obviously seen it before. I think you've raced in the mini league at least last season, didn't you, as well?
I think I raced like 3 or 4 seasons in a row in that championship. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, I can't wait for the new format to be brought into play starting tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah, that's going to be absolutely brilliant. So tune in on League Racing TV for that. That's going to be great to watch. But yeah, once again, like I said, thank you for joining me, Daka. Thank you everyone for watching the stream. Thank you everyone for commenting on the stream as well. And we will see you again this time next week for round 4 of the season at Spain. From myself and Daka, it is goodbye.
Bye.